They outplayed us in every phase of the game. They were obviously very motivated, and from what happened last week, they beat us. We got humbled.
Yeah. Woo. Ooh. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. The Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.
Third Degree the Podcast is brought to you by our listeners, our wonderful supporters, people just like you. If you enjoy what we do here on Third Degree the Podcast or on thirddegree.net or on social media, all reporting on professional soccer here in North Texas, why don't you join us on the Patreon and give us a little support to help bring you news about this beautiful game we all love. Once again, thanks for your support.
Well, hello there, DFW soccer curious. Welcome to Third Degree the Podcast. He's here, Dan Crooke. Howdy, Dan.
Hi.
Hello to you again. And your hero, my hero, everybody's hero, editor, founder, thirddegree.net, and the original soccer influencer, Buzz Carrick. Come in, Buzz.
Hey, Peter, I'm not really sure what we're going to talk about since Dallas hasn't played their first playoff game yet.
Ha! Yes, Buzz. That was probably the most comprehensive beating I have seen this club take in 30 years. The original Burn fan himself, Dustin, on your Discord, actually had the audacity to say that that was worse than the 1998 8-1 loss. And Eric Quill was quoted after the game as talking like, said they outplayed us in every phase of the game. They beat us. We've got to be better, and we got humbled. Buzz, were you surprised by Vancouver 3, Burn 0?
I think I was surprised that it was as comprehensive as it was, because the people that have said that that was perhaps the worst loss or most comprehensive or most completely outplayed loss in franchise history, I think are correct. The 8-1 game, they actually scored a goal, even if it was Damian with an Olympico off the corner. The 8-1 game, there were lots of sort of individual moments where a mistake would happen, and LA was just playing really well. This game was just a complete front to back, 100% domination of every possible phase. The only player that I think you can say something positive about is Michael Collodi. Everybody else on the team played subpar and played really poorly. And some of it is just because eventually, no matter how much work you've done with your team and your shape and your concept to try and make yourself be harder to beat, eventually you just run into a team sometimes that's just really, really good. And Vancouver is really, really good. And even missing pieces, they're just better than FC Dallas across the board in every way, in every phase. And part of it is the way that they play, particularly, which we can break down here in a minute, really eats up Dallas and causes Dallas problems. Because that's the first time in my memory, and I went back as far as FBref had stats, that Dallas was held without a shot. 0 shots, not shots on target, shots total. Some people want to claim Bernie had a shot, but that shot was so off the mark that it didn't register as a shot. So they had 0 shots by whatever
what
measure.
Does that get registered as?
I don't know. Not a shot, apparently.
Well, it wasn't a shot. It was an absolute
I think
howler.
They had one corner that, and it's Sully of all people, got. Well, we talk about that too. There
was that weird Ibiaga attempt at a header, which was more of a back pass as well.
Dan, what's your opinion about what you saw Saturday night?
I have no recollection of that. It was rough. I remember the last game they had they didn't record a shot technically, and it was a home goalless draw with Seattle, which neither team recorded a shot, and it felt absolutely dead. This game felt like a middle school team playing against Man United.
Yeah. It really did feel like it came down to just a better team, period. And and it's one of those deals where I feel like maybe the three of us should accept some guilt in that maybe we all got a little too excited in the aftermath of winning that game in Vancouver a week ago and not really taking the time to respect the reality that they played that game a man up and yet still could not get a hold of the ball, didn't try to get a hold of the ball very much. And when they did try to get a hold of the ball, couldn't keep the ball. And they were a Michael Collodi headstand away from, not winning that game. And maybe that was really the sign that we needed to know that the storm was coming.
I thought we were pretty fair about that. Like, it wasn't a good performance. It was definitely a got away with one.
Yeah, we definitely talked about how them down a man outplayed Dallas in that game,
But it's like you go into the playoffs and it's almost like, the form book kind of goes out the window and it's just like what happens can happen. And
yeah,
well, it doesn't help when a team plays scared for 90 minutes.
No. And, that was one of the other things, because as I was watching the game, just like, I don't know why I was surprised at how bad Dallas looked. And it was individual across. I mean, everybody other than Collodi really had a poor game. Petter Musa was bad. And I'm sure there's some tactical reasons why. I want to ask you about Quill's decisions in the lineup. But one of the things that I dug up after the game that I think two things can be true, Buzz. We can be really impressed and proud and complimentary of Eric Quill rescuing this team in the second half of the season, while also probably needing to tap the brakes a little bit on the reality and a bit of the miraculous nature in which this team ended up in the playoffs. Because not only did Eric Quill need to reshape this team into something that collected a lot of points after week 22 of the season, which was the game at the last of the 4 games where they lost the 4 home games in a row.
Right.
They also needed 5 other teams to completely collapse, and all of that actually happened this season. And I dug this up. So as of week 22, Dallas was behind Portland, Salt Lake, San Jose, Colorado, and Houston. They were behind them anywhere from a point behind, I think it was Salt Lake, as many as 13 points behind Portland in week 22. And after that week, Dallas collected 23 of a total 39 points, while Portland only collected 11, Salt Lake only collected 16, San Jose only collected 13, Colorado 15, and Houston a mere 11 points over that same spread of time. And maybe, just maybe, it's that miraculous nature where maybe some of us probably are a little shell-shocked at how bad Dallas looked against a team of the quality of Vancouver.
Yeah, Dallas effectively over that back stretch doubled everybody else that was ahead of them in points, give or take. And one of the things we always talk about when you're sort of, as we had sort of said, dead and buried after week 22, when they only had 5 wins at that point, we talked about the idea that it's not just that you have to turn your season around and play like 750 ball, which they did. Mm-hmm. It's that everybody else has to stop, because usually that doesn't happen. Usually somebody else continues to play very well. The problem is not just how many points you need. It's how many, there's like 5 teams in front of you that all need to shit the bed. And sure enough, they did. And by comparison, the 8-9 teams in the East Conference both have 53 points. So even with Dallas getting to 44, they'd have been way out of it. They actually would have been 10th, but to get to that 8-9 seed in the East, they would have no chance. So, it just goes to show you that, like, it was a confluence of, yes, a full credit, right? 6-2-5 after the Lucho was sent out, 6 wins in the last 12 games when they had 5 wins in the first 22. Incredible turnaround. Quill got all the guys, all the middle roster guys that we call dudes, right? The guys that are the bulk of your roster. He got all of them playing really well. He figured out a way to stop the bleeding, if you will. And if we want to put a real quick macro level bow on the season, if you compare this season to other FC Dallas seasons, things like wins, losses, ties, points, those are all pretty much middle or slightly above in terms of their rank in terms of all-time seasons. But when you get down to goals for on 52, that's tied for the 7th best. So they have offense, but then goals against is 55. That's the 5th worst ever. And that gives you a -3 goal differential, which is the 8th worst ever. So it's the defense. So what happens is you figured out this way to change your tactic and clamp down the bleeding of the goals. Then you get up against a really, really good team on their home field, a team that set all kinds of franchise records for points and goals and scoring, and was at the top 2 and met in almost every goal scoring metric in the league. And all of a sudden it wasn't good enough, right? We're talking about your best defender making a mistake on every goal that happened, and he still outplayed everybody in terms of the pure defensive game. So it is just a point where you just ran into one of the real contenders for MLS Cup this year and one of the real contenders for best team in the league this year. And they just are, even short guys, just so much better than FC Dallas across the board.
All right. So either one of you up for answering this question, because when I saw the starting lineup, big question mark formed over my head. Did Eric Quill outthink himself here, Buzz?
I don't know that when you look at the lineup, to me, it registered as a lineup that was made for a park it deep and hope to counterattack. And it very well may be that that's actually the best tactic to use against a team like Vancouver. But he didn't do himself any favors in the sense that it may have hurt his team's psyche. They may have thought, oh, we can't, coach doesn't think we can play against these guys because now we're going to bunker for the whole game and try to steal it. And certainly in hindsight, and I'm as susceptible as this with anybody, I thought Sarver deserved to start. And this is not anti-Sarver. It's just that I don't think any of us foresaw that the missing Patrick Delgado was going to be as absolutely massive as it was. That put them down a man in midfield when they were already going to have possession problems, and it only made it worse because Delgado quietly is the guy that can help you line break and play through, and without him, they could not. And that particular aspect, when they brought Pedrinho in, that particular aspect did improve. Now, they still weren't very good at it, and they still didn't play very well, but they did get a tiny bit better by having a guy that actually plays that spot. So I think they better hope that Delgado gets healthy if they want to have a chance. Cause I think without him, they're toast because they don't have anybody else that can fill those shoes.
I just happened to see lower body or something description of Delgado's injury. Have we heard any detail as to what that is?
Well, you saw when he got hurt in that game, he was poking that, I don't know what you'd call that, high quad, not quite a hernia, the top of that muscle. He was sort of pressing on it.
Hip flexor.
Yeah. Whatever that is right there at the top of his thigh. So that's not a good sign. The rumors around the campfire were that it was, maybe not so great in terms of there was, Quill said something about on the presser, I think, that he was going to be out this game and they were hoping he would optimistically be back for game 2. And I'm not, the vibe we hear is that probably is not, that's a pretty optimistic stance. Like usual, things are always worse with injuries with this team than they let on. So I think it will take a minor miracle for Delgado to be back, but if he is okay, that really helps a lot and that'll make a big difference.
Dan, I feel like if we're hinging our season on Patterson Delgado, we got bigger problems to fry.
It's pretty desperate, isn't it?
I think the way Vancouver plays in particular really causes problems for Dallas. They, for lack of a better term, they do what I would describe as a certain kind of counter press, whether you want to call it, the patented German gegenpressing, all that stuff or whatever. But what they do is that, particularly high, they play a very high line, and if one of their guys is turned over or loses the ball, they really, really quickly, within about half a second, they put pressure on you from at least one player. And then they will line them up. So like it won't be just one guy. It'll be a second guy and a third guy because they do not want to let you establish possession on the ball and get comfortable. They want to immediately turn you back over. That's something Oscar used to do. Not even always attacking the ball. Sometimes like when Dallas will win a ball off of a player, sometimes the Vancouver guy will just grab or bang or clutch. Sometimes it's a poke of the ball. Sometimes it's a slide in, but it makes you really uncomfortable. Dallas, not being a team that's good at playing out and building out, they don't play great soccer, quote unquote. You remember on the road game, the game before when they actually won, Weeby said Quill told him, we got to bring on some guys that can play soccer. Same thing, right? This is just a case where the other team is better at soccer than Dallas. And so Dallas, it was impossible. Like every time somebody would get a ball, it would instantly get hit and the ball would be gone. Yeah. They just could not even get a single pass together And that's why it's so comprehensively bad. That's why there's 0 shots. That's why it's 37% possession or whatever, because of the tenacity of that bang, 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 bang that Vancouver does the second they turn it over, and not let you get a breath, and not let you recover, and not let you get anything going.
I think that is a byproduct of something that we've discussed off and on, which is being a team that has to deal with Texas summers, which is a team like Vancouver can play that incessant press on top of you the second you receive the ball. And Dallas just simply can't, because I don't think that team is capable of getting to those levels of fitness, because the summer is such a drain on you physically that you can't get that. I just don't think Dallas is ever able to get to that level of fitness. Now, Dallas has its own level of fitness that is an advantage in those super hot summer days. But when you get into this scenario where you're indoors and you're in Canada, and the Whitecaps can just blanket you like crazy, and Dallas refused to do the same. Every time Berhalter got on top of the ball, there were people not within yards of him at times, and he was just allowed to play the ball wherever he wanted to, however he wanted to. And I that to me was the biggest difference. Also along with the fact that when Dallas finally got any kind of level of possession of the ball, they just looked scared or panicked to do something with it. And to Dan's point, that's what made the game look like kids versus men.
Yeah, there's just in the back half of the Dallas team, there's just not enough guys that are really good at soccer. We talk about this all season. Like early on, Quill tried to play out from the back all the time. Right. And while Urguide is a pretty good passer, Ibiaga's not, Abubakar's not, Shaq Moore is not, Bernie is not. Bernie's going to run by you, but that's it. He's not going to dribble around, spin. Kappas is pretty good with the ball at his feet, but when Kayik's in there next to him, he really is not. If he has time and space, he is, but under pressure, he's not. No. Ramiro, probably was at one point, but because he's a little bit slow of foot, it doesn't really work very well. You saw late in the game, he would try and turn with the ball, and there would just be a guy there. Like he can't get away from anybody and get space. So they just had no ability to sort of play out and get out and relieve themselves. And so it was just smothering. Like back when Colin Clark was here, they used to employ somewhat of a similar tactic. Like they would try and turn you over. If they lost it, they would try and really instantly turn you over again. But because of the fact you can't do it around 90 minutes here in Texas, they would then drop off and go into a mid to low block. They would do it really quickly, but then that was it. There wasn't second guy, third guy, fourth guy like Vancouver does. And that's very different. And you're right, that doesn't fly in the heat. Now usually FC Dallas under Quill tries to capitalize on mistakes. How many times have we shown the charts where they do get shots, where they turn you over high and they try and get an opportunity? Like they don't immediately go into a low block. And that's kind of why I think this idea of like starting from a low block from the get-go with Sarver and Anderson Julio is the choices, guys that are clearly designed to play vertical counterattack. That right away took you out of that high possession at all, and you never had a chance to try and get them and get at them in a hurry, because Dallas doesn't build from the back all the way up and score. They turn you over high and then try and get on the goal really quick. And against Vancouver, they had no shot at that at all.
I'm just really curious. I know you said you thought he deserved the start, but I really am curious around the thinking of starting Sarver over Farrington. I can't wrap my brain around that decision and that choice.
Yeah, I don't think that in hindsight, I think I phrased that poorly. I think that Sarver still started for Delgado and Anderson Julio started over Farrington. So to me, like my assumption going in was Musa and Farrington are going to start, and then, okay, who's going to replace Delgado? Well, I think Sarver deserves that opportunity, knowing that both Farrington and Sarver are guys that will come back and mix it up a little bit, right? Well, then we saw, instead of Farrington, we saw Anderson Julio, and that's what threw me. Because that wasn't just like, oh, Sarver deserves to be on field for Delgado instead of Pedrinho. It was, oh, we've put on two guys that are going to be vertical and try and fly and counterattack.
Yeah.
So that changed the whole tactic. Because before, if you'd have had Musa and Farrington, you would have had with Sarver. Sarver would have come back a little more, and he would have sort of been in that Delgado role, and you would have had two guys high. But they didn't do that because they brought in Anderson Julio. They took out the tenacity that never quit that Farrington has. And I think you saw at halftime, they realized that was a mistake, and they brought Farrington back on.
Dan, I was thinking as we were getting towards the end of the game, it dawned on me that the team that we were seeing out there in many ways was a reflection of what this Dallas team was going to be and that we were picking apart in the preseason prior to the Lucho Acosta purchase. And you know what I'm saying? And,
yeah, I mean, 100%.
and I was having a hard time. Like, I hate to do this, but I don't. Who was the worst player on the field for Dallas Saturday night? I'm having a hard time making a decision as who actually was the worst.
For me, I mean, there's two things, right? You can say like consistently just did nothing, or who had the biggest negative impacts. For me, Sebastian Ibeagha had the worst game I've probably seen him play. The penalty, complete misread, does not react. Second goal, I think he just stands there and Shaq Moore has to try and cover, or maybe that's the third goal. In any case, all three goals. At some
he was
point,
off the field for the third goal.
Oh, is it? Okay, so then it's second. Okay. There were several, there were a couple of the one-on-ones that Sabi had with Collodi, and it was just, Ibeagha just stands still. Or he takes a step the wrong direction. He just completely misreads a ball. They were killing him with that long ball through the middle. Like, they didn't even have to go to the wings half the time. It was just, okay, there's a giant hole in the middle of the defense there. Go for it.
Yeah. Can I throw out for nomination as worst player of the night, Kaik?
Yeah, he was up there for me.
Yeah.
I think the leader in the clubhouse for me is Anderson Julio. He was
bad.
He was bad. Not only was he not good, he just wasn't in the game. And that's why I thought his addition was really weird. Like, I guess I could see Sarver out there, but I don't understand not putting Farrington out there.
Do you know how many times Anderson Julio touched the ball in the 67 minutes he played?
Is it less than 10?
Yes, it's 9.
Yeah, okay. That doesn't surprise me at all. Kappas didn't have a good game. He was having a hard time passing the ball well. We talked about Uragide, who had some really bad moments, and his two center back teammates really failed him on that second goal where he was forced to foul that guy after. In fairness, that whole thing starts because Uragide misplays the initial defense tackling or trying to play the ball, and it gets in behind. But Lawless just stands there, and it's just like he's frozen in time. Like,
Lawless cut across. It was Ibeagha that stood still.
No, once they got into the top of the box, like they both kind of stand there. But I thought Lawless could have come forward a little bit more and tried to help him some more. He was trying to shield off in case the guy cut back to his left or something. It was very oddly played. But he was bad. I thought Shaq Moore really had a poor game. I said,
yeah.
Petter Musa was really poor all night long.
Saw someone in Discord say that every time Petter Musa is out, his first game back is horrendous.
Interesting. I never thought about that. And to your point, Buzz, the only person that really kind of showed well for himself was Collodi, which is a interesting conversation that I'm sure we'll have a lot of in the coming weeks in the offseason.
Yeah, he had 7 saves. Great job by him. Usually when, if you give up 3 goals, usually you're not going to think the keeper's going to be your man of the match. But he was. I mean, it should have been way worse. I mean, he had some outstanding saves, and 7 saves is a really high number. That might be higher than Paz had all year.
It's pretty bad that, arguably your second best player was the guy that gave away the penalty.
Yeah.
So I did see, I was looking through the stats after the game, just shell shock trying to get something out of it. And Michael Collodi had the 3rd most touches among all FC Dallas players. That's how little of the ball they saw.
I don't find that surprising at all. At the end of the day, this tactic I think it was an attempt to go back to the 3-4-3 that we saw at the end of last year, which is why when Peter, you said, it's what we were talking about probably before Lucio Costa came in the spring, like what we were probably thinking it was going to look like. And when you play that way, you really have to use the 2 wingers aren't wingers, right? They're really 10s underneath. It's that's why you look at guys more like a Delgado or Pedrinho underneath there if you're going to do that. And you really have to get your wing backs flying, which Romero can't do. So that's a disconnect right there. Logan Farrington can play that underneath kind of thing because he did it the back half of last year. Sarver doesn't though. He probably could, but he has not for North Texas or Dallas. So you're asking him to do something he's never done. At least not this year. He hasn't never done it. Maybe he did it in Indiana. I'm not aware of it. So, a bit of a, grasping at straws. Again, look, with Delgado out, it's just funny that that destroyed them because Pedrinho's been so bad when he's filled in that role. Quill obviously didn't think Pedrinho could do it, or he would have, because you're changing the whole tactic, which is always a mistake when you change the tactic, because you're missing one guy.
Yeah,
right.
I'm having a hard time envisioning a result much different in this game with Delgado in the game because he's been such an on-off player for the last several weeks.
Yeah, it just depends on which one you would have gotten. If you would have gotten Nightmare Delgado, it would have been exactly the same. He would have gone walkabout spent the whole game over on the sidelines, one or the other. But when he's in there, he would have been that third guy in there Kaique got outmanned from the get-go. And so they were having like a quad cover box on Kappas. It's just having an extra guy in there in that triangle would have done wonders to relieve a little pressure. Now, I'm not saying it would have solved anything because the real problem with Vancouver's press is what they do to the center backs and to your holding mids and that tightness in there. And one of those dudes is friggin' Mueller. I mean, come on, right? That's not fair. Kaique versus Mueller, get out of here. Even Kappas versus Mueller is ridiculous. So, they were just mismatched and overmatched from the beginning. And that's why we say that it was comprehensively one of the most complete and utter dominations we've ever seen. And it underlines how completely outmatched FC Dallas is in roster terms. They just are not anywhere near good enough to compete at the top of the league.
All right. So this is where I think we all get to sharpen our knives and our pitchforks and light our torches for the postseason anger fest that we have, grump fest that we have. If I tell you, now I'm pulling these from the midseason roster report, salary deal. We all know Dallas was about 12th in the league on just under $19 million in roster spend. Don't cheat. Neither one of you cheat. Have you cheated, Buzz? You have a smile on.
No,
don't look.
I was about to look up the salaries because we're talking about salaries.
Don't.
I stopped.
I'm going to ask you how much. Now, I don't know if this includes Mueller's salary or not. I'm going to guess it doesn't, but I'm going to ask you, where do you think Vancouver sits in that list?
I bet it's probably similar or lower than FC Dallas. I bet it's probably about the same.
I'd say it's lower because they've got a pretty young bottom of that roster, but they're like good players.
Yeah, Vancouver, at least at the point of this reporting, was at if Dallas was at 18, Dallas was at 18.9, or essentially 19. Vancouver was 21st with 15.7.
Well, I think
let's say they pay Mueller $3 million. They're essentially equitable. But I'm telling you, even if dollar for dollar, it's exactly the same. The quality on the field between Vancouver and Dallas is night and day. And by the way, they also have a new manager in tech. That guy started with this club this year too. This is his first season.
Well, consider that from the midseason numbers, Acosta's gone, right? And even though he was a failed thing, that was a DP level player. So that's gone, right? Whether you're paying him to be a DP or whether you're not paying him to be a DP, he wasn't really performing as a DP either way. So secondly, Paxton's 1.2 mil is being paid and he's basically a zero player. Now, listen, he came back at the end. That's awesome. Great. We're excited for next season. All that shit, right? This season, he's a zero, right? You've also got both Ibiaga and Abubakar and Shaq Moore all on basically $700K, which is a TAM level player. All of them perform. Leget's basically been a zero at least the back half of the season. So, yes, you have a whole bunch of money in this FC Dallas team that either didn't perform or didn't play at all or just stinks. And that's not including your $3 million you've spent on, not $3 million, whatever it was, 1 point something on Solly, who basically has never played for this club until now. You got Giovanni Jesus, another U22 you paid a relatively good sum for, who's not performing. You spent a whole load of money on Cake and he's still 19, 20. So he's a long way from being any good. But they just got massive chunks of roster that are either really young or way too old or just not anywhere near good enough. So it's the bottom line is just if you look when we do our next roster ranking, I challenge anybody, look on that dang thing. And even if you don't agree with our roster rankings, start at the top and go down and count for yourself how many true MLS starters are on the roster. Start counting and see how many you come up with. I bet you won't get to 11. I bet you get maybe 5 and then you'll be out of bodies. I bet you.
Can I make the salary thing even more depressing?
Go. I love it.
Looking at Vancouver. So this is excluding Thomas Muller because he wasn't there when they did the May release. Of the top 6 earning players in Vancouver, all the players that make over 900,000, 3 of them did not feature in the matchday squad.
Yeah.
One of them was on the bench coming back from an injury.
I think that's the crazy part of this story is Vancouver wasn't even close to being 100%. And they just absolutely curb stomped Dallas. And so much of that to me is all tied back to roster building and how poor this team is at roster construction. It is a miracle again, this really goes back to the miracle of Will getting this team in the playoffs to start with.
Oh yeah. Yeah. By the way, while we're on salaries, I poked around around here and I managed to find somebody who knew salaries for Dietzen and Kappas. So this is not the MLSPA, but this is my sources and I trust this source. Dietzen is on 326 base and Kappas is on 250. So Kappas is a steal.
That is a steal.
You know, pending there being some buy numbers in there. I don't remember exactly how they got them, but those are two. I mean, given what Dietz is doing, that's an overpay, but that's an easily palpable number if he's just a role player next year. And Kappas, the way he's playing, that's a bargain.
I think, and this will be interesting to see how this plays out this weekend in the return leg up in Frisco, which is, for those who listen to the podcast that aren't longtime soccer watchers, relatively new to the game, go back, either wait and see what happens on Saturday or go back and watch any particular 20-minute section of the game from last Saturday and just watch the body shape and how Vancouver players, their first touch, how they receive the ball, what they do once they receive the ball, and just compare that to any particular moment with a Dallas player. And you don't have to be a longtime soccer watcher expert to suddenly notice a stark difference in those qualities between the two teams. It was shocking. And the weird part is Dallas didn't look this shaky a week ago in the exact same place. The mentality was weird. Like something was bigger was off with Dallas. And maybe it was just playing with a man advantage was just enough to get him over the line a week ago. But this was
fearing the reaction.
Yeah, maybe.
You've given them a bloody nose. Like Thomas Muller had the quote in the post-game press conference where someone asked him, does Dallas have a psychological advantage coming into next week? He's like, we outplayed them with 10 men for 80 minutes. Why would they have any confidence?
And then he asked the guy if he'd ever seen soccer before. I thought that was a little rough, but yeah. I was reminded, watching this game, I was reminded of a game this spring. I think it was one of the games, maybe it was one of the games from Europe, or maybe it was towards, I can't remember. It's a game where we were able to see it. I don't remember why. And I remember there being a moment where it was not going really well, and they showed Eric Quill on the sideline, and the expression on his face was like, Jesus, man, I need to get rid of every one of these guys. Just like a bunch of, just like this look on his face. Like, do you remember that, Dan? I just remember being
Chicago,
like,
I think.
Yeah, maybe it was the game against Chicago.
Or maybe the Vancouver home game.
I don't remember what game it was, to be fair. I just remember there was this moment where Quill had the look on his face like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. And, that proved to be true and for the bulk of the season.
I just think as a general rule of thumb, when your own head coach in the halftime interview is quoted as saying, I need to get some guys out there that know how to play soccer.
Yeah.
I think that's always a really bad red flag. Like suddenly alarm bells should be going off.
And he had to go to Norris and Garcia.
Especially when it's not it's not a mentality thing. It's like technically these guys are crap.
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy because we talked about this in a positive sense a week ago when he subbed in a 19, 20, and 18-year-old. And that was kind of cool. But could you imagine how we would have reacted to that had they lost that game or dropped the points?
Yeah, we would have talked about, why coaches are, tend towards veteran players, and why don't you go with Leggett? Why don't you go with,
Or maybe this roster's so empty that's all he's got left to put
that's all
on
he's
the
got
field.
left. I mean, that's what happened. That basically what's happened was all he got
Right.
left. This game here, all he had left was Ennis Solly.
Okay, so let's stop right there.
Why can't you go to Leggett?
How did the other two of you like stop and try to figure out what was going on when you realized? First off, I didn't even realize who it was because I hadn't seen him in so long. Two, what is Eric Quill doing putting him on the field? Why?
I think his yellow card was Dallas's best moment of the game, to be totally honest. It was the first bit of fight.
Should have been a red.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that was fight as much as just a really shitty tackle.
It was, but he was pissed. He went for it. He, chased him down and took him out from behind. I mean, that's the most aggression I saw out of a single player.
I had two thoughts about this. Look, this is a kid who, since the 2 years he's now been on the Dallas roster, has not played an MLS game. So, like, the fact that he was making benches in the first place over guys like Dietzen or Garcia, I was like, what does that say about the players that he made the bench in front of? Like, since he came back in June from his loan, he's played one game for North Texas, and that's it. They didn't want him at North Texas. Nobody's playing him for SC Dallas. So he's on the bench at all made me really raise my eyebrows. And then when he came in, my first thought was, oh, Quill's in give-up mode. Because he's just giving the kid a minute, like, oh, you've worked hard all year, kid. Here's 10 minutes, whatever, go ahead.
Or is he rubbing in Zanata's nose mode?
I mean, I guess maybe it's a swan song before he's get out of here, or actually that's the best guy he has left. Like, that dude's outplaying the guys that didn't make the bench, which is remarkable because Solly is slow and terrible. Like, when he first got here, his little burst in training made me think, oh, maybe there's a way that little burst can come in handy in an MLS game. It doesn't. He can't get by an MLS level defender because the minute he runs into a guy,
he gets run over. He got shoved over 3 times in that game.
He's got one move, and MLS defenders just step in front of him and cut him off. Like, Alan Vasco has the same move. Alan Vasco gets by guys and gets a shot off, and Solly does not. So, like, the fact that Ennis Solly came in the game, I was like, oh, game's over. Quill gave up. He just gave the guy a curtain call, because you could have easily brought in Leggett at that point was still on the bench. I believe Paxton was still on the bench. I thought you don't want to risk those guys getting hurt, I guess.
Not on tough, no.
No, so, like, clearly, like, I think the mindset had been set by the lineup, by the tactic, and I think it was a vicious circle that just fed in Dallas into play really negative. And then the way Vancouver played reinforced that. They said, we can't do shit. So it's good. The press conference with Quill afterwards, he was very defeated in his body language. They tried to ask him about, like, is there anything positive you can take away from this? He was like, he's right at the minute I can't. Like, I have to look at the tape. Right, it's too fresh right now. I got nothing. Basically, was what he was saying. I'm paraphrasing.
Well, that was 40 minutes of yuck. Now, because this is Major League Soccer, and it's so unstable that a team can win 3-0 in a leg, and Dallas could somehow finagle a 1-0 win on Saturday, like Vancouver gets another red card or, a PK in a tightly contested game, and Dallas would still go through to a third and decisive game because there is no aggregate score, there is no away, home goals, any of that Jim Jam. And Dallas could win a PK shootout in a draw and still end up getting to go to Vancouver. So, Buzz, is there anything for anybody of the curious to hold on in the form of hope?
Of course. I think you have to, as a coach, my suggestion would be to remember that you were playing 3 at the back in order to stop somebody else from scoring any goals. And do the version of that most stops the goals. And I think that's Shaq Moore as a center back. Now, importantly, for whatever reason in this game, he put Shaq Moore on the right again instead of the left. And that bothers me because the best part of Shaq Moore as a left center back is that there are moments where you can sort of slide in a little and Bernie releases and you can free Bernie. But it only works if Shaq Moore's over there to sort of be your leftish back in that scenario, right? So I think you have to bring that back because you have to have Bernie be somewhat effective, even though it's going to be hard for him. He had a really bad game. Bernie. So did everybody else. Everybody else had a bad game, not just Bernie. It's not Paul and Bernie. But not having Shaq Moore over there, I think, really hurt that. So you got to bring that back. So then you have Ramiro at the wing back. Kaique got overmatched. You have to solve this Delgado problem. So maybe you try Jorginho, but he's not very good. So you might try and figure out, what can I do at home to get through this game with somebody that can do a Delgado job? Okay, what about Leggett and Paxton as a combo? You're not going to get 90 minutes out of either one, but maybe you can go half and half ish and put one of those guys in. Is that Delgado off wing /10 kind of position, and actually get back to the thing that made you be an effective team most of the time. Get some ability in midfield. If Kayik was so bad that you want to bring Ramiro into the middle also, then you have to try and find a wing back. That's a little harder. You might end up having to try somebody like a Bubakar over there, or I don't know what. That's a much harder solve because there isn't really a right wing back. But I think trying to find somebody that can fill Delgado's shoes would go a long way to helping you get a little bit better and maybe get a little something going in midfield.
I want to go back to your comment about Shaq being on the right versus the left. Isn't all of that, and then also Bernie having a problem without Shaq behind him, all of that goes back to Ibeagha and his shortcomings, because I'm sure Shaq is over there to try to help Ramiro cover up that speedy winger that Vancouver has on that side that was killing Ramiro all night.
100%.
And then now Ibeagha has to deal with, or Bernie has to deal with Ibeagha behind him, and that broken relationship between those two guys. So all of that comes down to the fact that Ibeagha, as we've been saying for a while now, is not probably the right guy for starting center back.
Yeah, either Ibeagha or Bubakar has to play well at right center back, and if you're going to try and have any chance. But remember, the thing is about this season is that the back three or back five, as Eric quite clearly has called it, they only do that because the defense is terrible and their center backs are terrible. So they're doing that to help that problem. You're not going to overnight in the playoffs all of a sudden be able to play a back four with two center backs and be effective. I mean, you could roll the dice that way and hope you get lucky and get through and play a back four, but changing your tactics now with like one game left in the playoffs is crazy. You might as well just go with what's been working in the last 2 months in its purest form. That's the overthinking the thing, was putting Shaq Moore over there. Just help Ramiro with Ibeagha is not glacially slow. He's fast enough to help Ramiro on that side. If you're going to get through it, at some point you have to trust guys or give guys a chance to play. And if they can't do it, you're going to get beat anyway. You're not going to be able to magic your way past Vancouver. You're just going to have to be able to play your best game and hope it's good enough. And your best game is Shaq Moore at left center back and Ramiro at right wing back. At this point. Now, if you still had Sam Junka, you could put Sam Junka at right wing back. That would help a lot. Right, but you don't have that. You don't have you put Leggett over there. He's not as fast as that guy either. There's no right wing back available that's fast enough to cover those guys, unless you do something bonkers like a Bubakar right back or some right wing back. But that's not really any better necessarily, I don't think.
Yeah, I kind of wish they could put Kappas and Ramiro in the middle, because Kayik is such a liability. At least he was in that particular game. Maybe Kayik has a better game in Dallas on Saturday night, but. Yipes. I
mean, at some point, if you don't want Ramiro out there, at some point you have to talk about something crazy. Because if you put Shaq Moore up there, then you take away your best center back, and now you're really exposed in the back. Your second best center back, sorry. So then you have to think about things that are outside the box, like can Torquato play on the opposite side? Can Leggett hold up enough to do it? Could Sam Sarver be a right wing back for one game? What about Kayik? He's pretty mobile and active. Could he run up and down for one game and defend out there? Put Ramiro in the middle, put Kayik out wide. I don't know.
Fetch.
I'm trying. What else are you going to do? Like, you don't want to put Logan back there, or or Anderson Julio. But at some point you got to see, like, where are my shortcomings that are hard to solve. And what's most important? And for me, like, Shaq Moore left center back is a big part of that. I know that left winger is really fast and really good. He's a Canadian international. He's super talented. But at some point, you just gotta dance with them that brung you, right? Play what was your best guys when your best run, and it was Ramiro out there by himself. Ramiro's gonna be super defensive. That's fine. It is what it is. But
Well, the game is not till 8:30 on Saturday night at the Toyota Stadium. Maybe it's the last game of the season. Maybe it's not. I guess we'll find out then. But lo and behold, that was a stinker as Vancouver wins game 1, 3-0 over the Burn.
Can I throw a bright light, a silver lining into that thing?
Okay.
It's such a stinker that should end any of this discussion that this team has a roster that can contend. That this is a playoff roster and that we can be able to win and game. No, dude, you just
I think for the rank, I think for people like us that talk about this a lot. I think for the casual interloper, they'll just see they made the playoffs. And for the front office, I can't tell you what they think about this.
That's fair.
You know, I honestly, Dan, can you?
No, I mean, we've obviously heard the quotes before about just making the playoffs. It's a lottery. You've got as good a chance as anyone else. Obviously, that game showed you absolutely do not, especially... Okay, let's say they do what Atlanta did last year to Miami. They get beat away. They get absolutely battered at home, but sneak a stoppage time winner and then magically win away. You're still on the road to LAFC, to probably San Diego in the conference final. You're 100% on the road in MLS Cup. They have to have more quality than they showed.
I think there was an era when MLS was tighter, when the difference between the top team and the worst team was a smaller gap. And you had MLS Cup winners like the Colorado Rapids, who were like the 5th team in the West. And they bounced over to the Eastern Conference that one year that they did like the top 8 in points. And then they won on the road. And there was an upset on the other half of the bracket. And all of a sudden the Rapids were in MLS Cup final against FC Dallas. So it used to be the case that you could do that. But now we're getting to a point, I think we're getting to a point where the top teams are so much better. They have guys like Mueller and Son and Messi and these rosters that just comprehensively
game changers.
Game changers on top of having guys that are playing for less to play with the Messi or a comprehensively talented roster like Vancouver has or LAFC. San Diego with all their youth internationals they've spotted and nabbed early, just super talented,
Yeah, it's interesting, and we'll obviously have much longer and more detailed conversations about 2026. But right before we recorded this, I was watching the Columbus-Cincinnati game, and the qualities of both those teams is so exponentially higher than Dallas in terms of how they play, the qualities of how those players play the ball. All of it is just better across the board. And Columbus is way down the roster list compared to Dallas. Cincinnati obviously is significantly higher, but Dallas couldn't hang with either one of those teams right now with all of its best players playing in its best form. And they're like different categories of teams. And I do wonder as we move into, we've talked about this, a second season of the building project, the stadium project, and all the revenue reductions they're getting there. If you kind of want a sign of what's going on with the club in this season, they have now lost 2 senior VP level employees, and they've announced they are not replacing either one of those people with another senior VP level title. Now, at the end of the day, the amount of money both those people make is nothing compared to but you get my point. Like if they're not even going to bother to replace 2 senior VPs in their front office staff, I would take that as some sort of indicator that they're doing some sort of, they're not going to be super outgoing in terms of spending on player quality next year and the year after that.
Yeah, it's not just the salary per se, it's the position. It's like, they're divvying up the responsibilities of those people to people that were their underlings.
Yeah.
Right. So like you could say, oh, the next guy just got promoted. No, he didn't. But in both of those departments, the next person did not get promoted. The next person just got all the work that the other person was doing. Or in the case of the second one, multiple people in those departments. So, those are all capable people that have those jobs, but it just goes to show you that they're eliminating a whole rung on the employment chart, in some ways.
Yeah.
The marketing thing's kind of a classic FC Dallas move. It's that you get rid of you lose a VP, but then you promote a manager to a director. You lose a director, you promote a coordinator to a manager. You kind of have that internal hire that's, you hope that they've gained enough from it, but at the same time, you're paying.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to come away thinking this is in any way, shape, or form a reduction of anybody that is still at the club and their role at the club. It's not. In fact, they're, to Buzz's point,
I think
they're working.
One of them, honestly, I think is a much better move.
Super hard. But I do wonder if it is some sort of larger indicator about where the hunts are in terms of how they view the current cycle the club is in because of the stadium project that's going on, and again, the reason why I focus on this so much is because when they announced the stadium project at the beginning of last season, and when we started hearing what was going down, and we were all like, wait a second, they're going to continue to play in this thing for 3 MLS seasons while they do this. And we got a lot of pushback that we were being overly negative and no, they're going to spend, and this isn't going to be a hindrance on how this team is going to progress in terms of a club and all those things. And it's all starting to play out exactly the way that we talked about, not just us, other people too, and kind of predicted before the season played out. And the only thing that kind of changed anybody's opinion about that was the Lucho Acosta signing. And that absolutely spectacularly blew up in everybody's face.
Yeah. And granted, that was money that came in from other places. You know, we've said all along that the Hunts do have a willingness to spend money. They just don't spend it where other people do, or our fans might wish they would. They spend it like, they spend it on these gigantic stadium rentals. This is the 3rd time now that they put big chunk of money into the venue. I applaud the investment into the venue. That's great. You know, the development of those fields out there to have the youth academy, the development of the fields they run around town. Well, you know, money grab up until now, of course, but the other facilities they've had, the investment in the stadium down in Mansfield for the second team, right? Infrastructure, things like that. That's where they spend their money. They don't spend their money on splash, on what they would perceive as a short-term thing. Now, you and I might say, and Dan might say that like investment in, you know, marketing is how you build your brand and how you get butts in the seats and how you build your revenue. Well, the stadium rental is a cap on revenue. So all of a sudden, like the short-term reins might be tightened up a little bit because they're going to be short in revenue for 3 years. And probably, this is 100% just my opinion, I'm guessing probably longer than 3 years now, because we've already seen multiple times now there's been a hesitation or a stoppage or delay in the construction that's happening now. And we hear talk of rollbacks and what the whole thing was going to be. So we'll see how it develops, because I don't think we're going to get what we were showed on paper in the beginning. I think we're going to get less than that now.
We were never going to get that.
Yeah, we always knew that. But
yes,
you know, is it going to be better? Absolutely. It's going to be light years better. It's going to be awesome. The game day experience is going to be incredible. Prices are going to be a lot higher too. I ain't going to be going down at that price. I'll just watch it on TV.
Well, one quick point about money, and particularly on the playing budget. Equating it to the 2 vice presidents that left and aren't like being like for like replaced. They were also people that job title was created specifically for them. There weren't vice presidents in those departments beforehand. You know, obviously we did see the Lucho spend. They did factually bid $12 million cash for Evander until his people said, no, we ain't coming to Dallas. Mm-hmm. There's been the money there. It's just now you're just hoping it continues. And honestly, getting beat around by Vancouver might be one of those times that Clark Hunt picks up the TV remote and goes, oh shit, I'd better invest a little bit and make it less embarrassing.
Yeah, that'll be a big test this winter, is do they spend Lucho's money, that salary, the money they got back for him, does that money get spent? Does that salary slot get used? And do they go back to 3 DPs, or do they stay on the 2 DPs and 4 U22s? You know, those are the things to watch. You know, they've done a decent job of being at least middle of the pack in terms of overall sort of spend the last few years. Again, a lot of it is misspend that we've outlined many, many times. I think, but at the same time, like, okay, great move to sell Lucho. That's perfect. Exactly what you needed to do. Okay, the money's there though. Are you going to use it? Like, have you got some lined up? Where's the center back you've needed for 5 years now that we've been talking about for 5 years now?
2 center backs.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't let them off the hook when they try to point at Uragide. Well, that's totally fair and a fantastic signing and a surprise.
Yeah.
And probably an MLS best 11 center back in this league, at least maybe prior to Saturday night's game.
Yeah, not this year, maybe next year.
You know, that this team has needed a lot of center backs, not just one center back. And Ibeagha and Abubakar combined don't equal one quality center back. So I don't let them get away with that one.
If only someone would have said that when they signed Ibeagha in the first place. Oh, wait.
I think it's cliche to say the Hunts are cheap, because I don't think that's necessarily true, and the numbers haven't proven that out. I just don't think they've got the front office staff to spend it smartly. very well. And obviously the results are the proof and pudding and all of that. I mean, the team just hasn't been very good since 2016. Just hasn't. So, the outlier was maybe Nico Esteves' first season, and that kind of fell flat towards the end too. So,
second season.
Was it the second? I thought it was his first season when they picked up Leggett and Paul. Wasn't that his first season? Yeah, that was his first season.
That was the whole new era thing.
Yes, Buzz, it was the new era.
Hold on, I'm looking.
Back in 2022. The new era of 2022.
You're right. It was his first season. Yeah.
It was the year of Kellen. Oh, wait, that's a whole different thing. Sorry, I forgot about that. All right. Well, there you go. Hopefully everybody has their tickets warmed up and can be one of the... Oh, by the way, a couple of things, other notes. Vancouver's kits, always great. All their kits are so good. The only thing I still wish they had the brown kit, because that brown kit was kick-ass when they had that.
One of the great kits in MLS history, yeah.
2, what a fantastic scene in that stadium. I mean, sold out, upper deck is open. They went out and spent the money to give everybody something they can wave. Man, that was proper up in Vancouver on Saturday night. I was really impressed by all of that.
Well, my favorite story that the broadcasters told was the one about how there's a documentary about the Vancouver North American Soccer League Cup, the Super Cup or whatever they called that thing.
Mm-hmm.
When they beat
Soccer Bowl.
Thank you. They beat Dallas Tornado on the way to that thing. There's a documentary about it that came out this year. And apparently the story is that Mueller watched it on his plane flight to Canada. The very first time he came to Canada, to meet with the team. He watched that documentary on the plane and was like, "I'm in, let's go." So that's a fun story.
Yeah. Soccer Bowl was, we were young then, Buzz.
Yeah.
I wasn't born then.
Okay. Stop it.
Oh my God.
One thing, the stadium looked really cool. What the hell was with those AR advertising boards that they were putting on? It looked like Microsoft Paint. It wasn't like the NHL ones that have all the shading and like you can, everything. They were just flat, but they were curved at the same time. It looked shit.
Yeah, it was weird because I guess they were showing different ads in the stadium than what they were showing on TV through AR.
Virtual boards.
And that's why some of the players would tend to fuzz out as they got too close to the boards and stuff. I noticed that too. I thought that was an interesting choice. Maybe because you know why it is? I bet because in the stadium, they're all Canadian-focused ads, and for TV, they're American-focused ads.
It was funny. Every time they cut to like a replay in the stadium, it was like a Continental Tires ad, which is an MLS sponsor.
Well, maybe in theory.
Yeah, I imagine that they have a lot of national sponsors on those boards. But I think Peter's probably right that a bunch of them are Canadian sponsors too, local sponsors.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were glitching and
Tim
they were
Hortons
not great. Yeah,
all the time. And Maple Syrup Canada, big Maple Syrup was advertising all the time. And
yeah, Big Syrup. Yep.
Canadian lumberjacks or axe handles or whatever. I don't know. Stick a cliche in there. A stereotype for sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, hopefully better things on Saturday night. Buzz, do you want to predict a starting lineup for Saturday night?
Well, I think it's going to be super hard to predict because you're going back to like a holy crap, what do we do? I think, but my suggestion would be what I kind of was when we were going through the whole thing was that I think you have to have Shaq Moore at left center back, because that's your best defense, and that makes Bernie be the best that Bernie can be, which is important. And then you have to have somebody at right center back who's quick enough to play with Ramiro out wide. The caveat being that, like, if you really wanted to be ballsy, you would put Ramiro in the middle and make Kaique play wing back and just see what happens and roll the dice. But I think it's not quite roll the dice time. I think it's if you get back to your game, you'll give yourself a chance. So you got to go with either Abubakar or Ibiaga at right center back, and you really just have to hope that they have a good game and play well. At some point you got to play who you have, and that's who you have. And Ramiro being a right wing back usually is the best shape because he's smart enough to play well with whoever's inside him in a defensive way. And then it has to be Musa and Farrington because Farrington's work rate and his chaos creating is super catalytic for them in terms of the way they want to turn you over high and get something going. You've got to have Farrington out there. And then you have to try and solve the Debacle problem. The obvious, easy, simple one is you just play Pedrinho, but I don't think he's been good enough. I would consider home game, last game of the season, start either Paxton or Leggett. Not Paxton, probably. Start Leggett.
Is it possible Leggett is just hurt worse than they're letting on and he can't actually play? Because I don't understand why he hasn't even subbed in for some of these games.
It's possible, but he's not showing up like it's questionable or doubtful, and I've not heard anything. But for whatever reason, you're right, he hasn't been playing. Enisali is not usable in that spot. Dietz is not usable in that spot. Norris is not usable in that spot. You can maybe replace Caik with Norris, maybe. He can pass a lot better than Caik can. How you've solved the Delgado, other than putting out Pedrinho and crossing your fingers, the only thing I can come up with is using a Leggett Paxton combo. Put Leggett in to start the game, try and get through halftime, see if you can get 45, 50, 60 out of him, and then bring in Paxton for 30 and see if you're in the game. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to stop the bleeding in the back. Go with your best set of defenders. Try and get somebody on the field that can help you in the midfield. And you got to have Farrington. It's got to be Farrington. Like, I know people like Sarver. Sarver can be leaking himself. That's fine. He can't solve any of your problems, and taking Farrington out is a mistake. So, it's weird that it comes down to like so pivotally to Delgado and there is no other choice. Anthony Ramirez is not even hardly even starting for North Texas now. He must be hurt too. The way they cheat that by not giving out North Texas. He played in their playoff game, but he hasn't played for FC Dallas hardly at all, other than a debut here and there. Diego Garcia doesn't help you in that position. He's a deep guy like Kappas or Caik. Other than rolling the dice on Norris in the midfield, I can't think, for Caik, which I don't think is necessarily the answer either. That's kind of where you're at. Go ahead, Dan.
I think I love the Leggett Paxton thing. There's no way Paxton's rated for more than 15 minutes. So you've got to somehow get Leggett, who hasn't played in God knows how long, through 75. There's got, you would need some kind of intermediary for that, and I don't know what that would be.
The only other crazy idea I would have, and you would have to be really desperate to try this, would be to play Alvaro at right center back, because he's pretty rangy and pretty physical, and if he's between Iragide and Ramiro, like, given how limited his minutes have been since people have gotten more healthy, he must not be ready for that. But at least physically he could do it, right? Would it be worse than Abubakar or Ibiaga? I don't know. It may be a case where just like you really have to hope that Ibiaga's experience holds up. And at the end of the day, this is the thing. They're just not good enough.
Can he play soccer?
I don't know. He doesn't at North Texas. I mean, I would say put Nolan Norris at left center back. He can play soccer.
I know he can.
But he doesn't solve your... I mean, he kind of could solve your problem of more left center back, where you could, because he can slide wide and let Bernie release. So maybe that's an idea. Maybe you put Nolan at left center back and Shaq Moore at right center back. I mean, talk about flipping around your whole defense.
You might as well just go to 4 in the back.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, you could do that. They did late in the game, but again, you'd still end up with rolling the dice on 2 center backs that you're not sure can do it. I mean, we know Iragide can do it, but like, who's the other center back? You can put Shaq Moore in the back 2 center backs. I don't. Then you'd have Ramiro straight up 1-on-1 versus that guy on that side. It's like, even if you do that on goal 3, where Shaq Moore again gets beat on a long track of a guy, like Shaq Moore, he's running with the guy, but the dude is a half a step ahead of him, and that's the goal. Right, Shaq Moore doesn't win that run when he's playing right center back right back in a back 4. Happened all the time in the first half of the season. Saw that goal 15 times probably.
Yeah, that's an hour, Buzz.
Yeah, amazing.
Ick.
I mean, it's a bad spot. Don't kid yourself, man. The chances are, even winning this game, are long. But
yeah.
You
just hope they come out of this not embarrassed like they were Saturday night.
Right.
That's really all. I mean, if you want to, I mean, it's okay. If you guys want to go into this hoping they win the game, great. I'm just telling you, you're probably better off just hoping they don't get their ass kicked again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the funny part, right? They've got 4th and 5th choice centre backs, absolutely vulnerable at the back, and we can't even talk about that because they can't get the ball upfield.
Right. Yeah.
And both of those guys are better than most of the guys Dallas is running at center back.
All right. Saturday night,
not Urquide,
8:30. There you go.
Frizo was, I mean, he's a midfielder. He's not even a defender, but he's not. Yeah. He's liability.
And speaking of bummer endings to the season, North Texas fell to San Jose again, 3-0. Season over, Buzz, and let the bloodletting begin.
Yeah, scorched earth. They have not announced it, and I don't know if they will. They tend not to really do much press work down there at that level. But according to our sources, they essentially gutted everybody. All the players that were signed to second team contracts that had options were declined, all but one. I can't get a really straight answer on the one. That one is a player I really like, Isaiah Kakush. I either got answers like, oh, because of the late season torn ACL, it's complicated. And what that means, I don't know. Maybe there's an insurance complication or something, or injury. I mean, I don't even know. I think that's a player worth re-signing to a homegrown deal, in my opinion. So I'm hoping that's what's happening, but that's just a pure guess on my part. All the rest of the guys that are out, it's basically like a clear house kind of thing. Now, as part of that, if my sources are correct, and I did have multiple sources on this, like, they have another 3 or 4 guys that are going from hybrid to homegrown. They got some guys that are going to be on the first team roster. Like, there'll be some more academy signings. So it looks like maybe potentially they're going fairly young next year, but the winter will tell us. We'll see what happens. Only a couple of guys really exceeded progression down there and played better than we sort of expected. We'll see.
Is the Manfield facility supposed to be open in time for the start of their season?
Yes, they're doing one of those deals where I think they're starting with a relatively high number of road games at the beginning. I don't know exactly, but what I've been told is that it will be ready for next season.
All right, Texoma ended the season with a loss to Tormenta, 3-0. They ended up in 12th place. Not a good debut season for an expansion team, so maybe that's to be expected.
Yeah. Minus 20 goal differential too, which is worse than the league, even though they didn't finish worse in the standings. So like that just shows you that like when they were losing, they're getting blown out. So it's like they lose bad when they lose.
Do you think they overshot in terms of sticking themselves as a USL 1 team?
I don't know enough about their investor situation. I think they overshot in terms of thinking that market had enough soccer fans to sustain a USL 1 team. That's pretty.
Yes, I think that's actually 2 parts: the off-field overshooting and the on-field overshooting. Like, did they really think they could put a competitive team on the field?
Oh, sure.
For USL 1.
Yeah, I mean, like there are teams that finish below them. The Richmond Kickers, who have been around for 30 years. I mean, there's it's certainly capable of an expansion team going out and signing some guys and getting some pieces. And granted, in the middle of the season, they had a really nice run where they went like 8 games without losing, and they climbed themselves up into the playoffs. So at some level, they certainly had a team that could compete. It just didn't hold up, for whatever reason. Like I'm not dialed in enough to tell you like in exactly what happened in terms of them. For a couple injuries here or there, maybe a couple of guys not progressing like they had hoped. The goalkeeper change was a big part of it. Maybe he didn't keep up that stance, although it sure looked like he did. But again, when they would lose games, they would lose bad. But it says to me something about mentality. Maybe guys just got resigned to like there not being enough fans in the stands. I mean, they had some okay attendance, but not really much to look at in terms of like draw. It's a tough situation up there,
Yeah, that's
especially with the problem they had with the owner. Well, they had to fire the owner from his job part, and there's a new guy filling his role from the ownership group, the other half of the ownership group. So like, there's some weird stuff going on, and I think we're yet to hear exactly what is going down with that team in terms of the future. There's so much going on with Salina or whatever else is happening. So stay tuned on them. We'll see.
All right. Well, nothing really to talk about with Trinity as they are obviously off and don't have another game until the November 2nd against DC. Atletico, I don't have anything new about them and no news.
Well, no news in Atletico, but since the last couple of weeks, we've been getting this sort of blackout on Fort Worth, and there's a little bit of like, nudging around and poking around. We found that, from people I've talked to, it sounds like that whole thing is still tracking. So like, we don't have anything definitive to add, but the people that we do know that would know sort of have reassured us. Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't worry, guys. Things are tracking. I don't have any more thing to add than that, other than, we feel pretty confident that thing is still slowly taking steps down the line. It's going to remain fascinating to see how it goes relative to Atletico Dallas because of how different their launches have been. when they're playing at the same time. It will be fascinating to watch.
I'm going to throw this out there. I probably shouldn't, but I'm just going to say it because I want the curious to have something positive to hold on to. A very good source, unsolicited, told me the other day that when the new FC Dallas home shirt is debuted next season, we will all be, quote, extremely happy.
That's exciting.
I don't know what that means. And that seems like a lot of hyperbole and overpromise. So they better deliver.
Yeah, I had somebody definitively tell me that it's better than the Burn third kit.
Yeah, it's the same.
Whoa.
Which is, that's insane because that's a easy top 3 kit in club history. And to be better than that, better than McDonald's?
I hate the bluish, grayish, whitish thing that they have for a secondary shirt kit this year.
So bad.
But Saturday also reminded me how much I hate the gradient purple, more blue than red thing that they wear these days for quote unquote home kit. So I'm ready for something that makes me proud and happy like the black Burn kit does.
I wouldn't mind the Dallas kit FC Dallas kit tracking a little more reddish, more red pants and red socks, more red in the top than blue. You're right. The current version of the kit, and it probably has been this way for a couple of years because of the blue shorts and socks. It's had a lot of blue with like red accents. And I kind of want it to be the other way, really more red with blue accents. So we'll see what, with white, obviously trim in some level. If it's yellow trim, that's RSL. White trim is what makes it FC Dallas. So we'll see what it's going to be.
Excellent. It can't be worse than the new Nike goalkeeper kits that we're seeing for the World Cup. Good Lord, those things are horrid.
So bad.
Awful stuff, Dan. Fix that.
It's a pretty solid throwback to the 93-94 kits. They were just a shit kit then, and it's a shit kit now.
Some of the versions, apparently every country is getting that same one that it's Adidas, and so some of them will look better than others. There's some that are actually worse than the US one, believe it or not.
Yeah, the Canada one just looks like someone threw up on it.
Maybe somebody spilled maple syrup on it.
Hey, by the way, we went fast on Dallas Trinity, but did you mention they were in 6th place on 10 points?
I didn't. No.
Yeah, we talked about this, that there's a weird disconnect in terms of the number of games have played. The whole league varies from 7 games to 10 games played. So unfortunately on the standings, they don't have a points per game standings. They should. So I made one real quick. And Dallas is actually the Golden Girls. Love that nickname. The Golden Girls are 4th in points per game. So still one of the better teams in the league, 1.43 points per game ahead of Spokane.
Thank you for that additional note. The Neal family appreciates that, Buzz.
Peter, when are you going to go to a Trinity game?
You know what?
November 2nd?
Now that Dallas' season is over, I have no more excuses. Will you go with me?
Yes, I'm working this weekend,
Okay.
so I can't. The weekend after that, I'll be out of town.
Well, then I guess
The
I'm
weekend
going
after
to have
that,
to go
I'm
by
working.
myself.
After that, I'm working. Yeah, you're going to go by yourself.
Okay.
Well, you should go.
Okay. I agree. I admit it. I'm
Dan will go
ashamed
with
I haven't
you.
been yet.
Dan's a Trinity.
I'll be in the press box.
He won't come down and sit with me and hold my hand.
Oh,
but the new press box is nice.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, boys, thanks for slogging through that a difficult episode of Ick.
Negative but cathartic.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't realize we actually have a double header of soccer this weekend. That's nice.
Okay. Very good. We go out on a high note.
The Saturday game's probably not so nice, but, the Sunday will be a game.
All right. Very good.
Third Degree, the podcast, is brought to you by our listeners, our wonderful supporters, people just like you. If you enjoy what we do here on Third Degree, the podcast, or on thirddegree.net, or on social media, all reporting on professional soccer here in North Texas, why don't you join us on the Patreon and give us a little support to help bring you news about this beautiful game we all love. Once again, thanks for your support.
Dan, thank you for joining us and all your thoughts and insights and observations and findings.
Thank you.
Buzz, excellent stuff.
Don't forget to fall back this weekend, fellas, on your clocks.
Yes, don't forget this.
Come on, who actually changes clocks now?
Doesn't everybody?
Luddites.
You don't have a bedside clock that you have to change?
I use my phone.
No. Let's look at my old GE special. Very good. Well, thank you DFW Soccer Curious. We love you. We really do, even in these difficult times. We will speak to you next week on another episode of Third Degree, the podcast.
The pain will be over soon.
Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.